And welcome back as we continue our analysis of Trump's return to CPAC this week. In this segment, we're going to focus on Trump and the GOP's future. Where do they go from here? Trump thinks there's an opening for his return. He thinks that opening is Joe Biden.
We all knew that the Biden administration was going to be bad, but none of us even imagined just how bad they would be. Joe Biden has had the most disastrous first month of any president in modern history. That's true.
Well, that would be good for him if it were true, but if you ask the American public, they have a different take. Biden currently is enjoying a 61% approval rating. That's north of the best grade that people ever gave Trump. I'm talking for his entire 4 years, and even more Americans, 63% approve of Biden's handling when it comes to COVID, hands down the biggest issue of his young presidency. Perhaps Trump isn't bitter, or is, because Biden's 61% approval dwarfs 34% approval that he got as he was walking out of the White House. It didn't end there. Republicans spent the weekend looking for issues where they could make hay. The convention's theme was uncanceling of America, and Republicans pushed on what they called the cancel culture.
I mean, if there's things that you thought were sort of above cancellation, you would be wrong. There is nothing the radical left won't cancel.
Party also clearly believes the pushback against COVID restrictions remains a political winner. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, for me, pound for pound, the biggest idiot of any elected official in America, but he's getting a run for his money from the South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem. Both of them, though, rising stars in the remade Republican Party, both doing well in the straw polls. They have bashed COVID closures, restrictions, even mask mandates, popular positions within the GOP, but remarkably unpopular when you ask all of America to weigh in. Both states been among the worst when it came to both COVID cases and deaths. So what should we make of CPAC and the future of the Donald and the GOP? And I ask that because I believe, Chris, with each succeeding week, let alone month and year, between the business revelations and struggles, the cases that Andrew laid out at the top of the show, there are at least a half a dozen, I believe will be double that when you add in some of the civil cases. Trump's brand is going to be so damaged, the revelations that shows that he's worth a fraction of what he's maintained he is, and all the rest. None of it's good for him. And I believe it's going to be harmful. Plus, he doesn't have the bully pulpit of the Oval, which is what he counted on, Twitter or otherwise, to keep getting the oxygen that he so desperately wanted. I think he is, and Republicans like you hope he is, he becomes weaker and weaker as an influential power with, I think, each succeeding month.
Okay, I'm going to make a few observations. First off, he was fairly disciplined in his speech. He used the teleprompter. He did talk about his accomplishments, which people have asked him to do, and he's had some real accomplishments, even if people don't like them. Immigration would be one, energy would be another, the economy growing. Admittedly, he had a great platform, but he had things he could talk about. So he was disciplined. He is going to run and tell people he's going to run because he wants to raise more money. He'll get more money this way than he will from his businesses, so that's a factor. And then let me just say this. This, to me, I think is stunning. There were 26 contested seats. You know, Republicans and Democrats, who's going to win them? Republicans won all 26 at the election. They picked up 15 seats. And admittedly, they lost 2 in Georgia, but that was after the election. And my point is, I think there are a lot of things that Trump talked about that even if people don't want to admit publicly, they really care about.
But think who people associate now with the Republican brand. It's Trump, obviously, first and foremost. But look at some of the names that we talked about more than anything. Flying Ted Cruz, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is an all-out believer of QAnon. I know she hurts your head, but that's who people think about. Josh Hawley. I can go down the list, but they're not good names.
I don't see anyone who could run for president out of the Republican Party that I would feel really happy about. I can't think of any. So,
and I'm not sure that Donald Trump is the best salesperson for those policies at this point. I mean, the number of people who saw Led Zeppelin playing Stairway to Heaven on stage this weekend were the people in the room and the diehards. I think for most people it was like the Macarena playing, and you're like, oh, that song, I remember people liked that song, but it grates on me. Like, I think people are, I do not think that he'll be received well from this speech going forward. It's a reminder that, you know, we went through that and we don't really want to go back to that.
But you want to get the gavel back.
But the
How do you get the gavel back if the Taylor Greens are sucking up all the oxygen with all the news coverage?
I totally agree. But you know, the Democrats have problems too.
Yep.
Think about it. We have the Lincoln dinner. They had the Jefferson-Jackson or the Jackson-Jefferson dinner. And now they don't want to associate with either of them. Those were the annual dinners that we had in the state. They don't want, and so when you talk about the cancel culture, there is, you know, and then they're going after Washington. I mean, you begin to.
I'm glad you brought that up because it felt like the biggest issue that they had this weekend was a grievance. It was continuing this whole everybody's got it out for us. Everybody wants to cancel us with a thing, which is effective, but it's not enough to campaign for a return to the majorities in Congress or a return to the White House on. You need more than that, and I don't think they hit enough buttons that the American people care about.
I agree with you, but my only point is that I don't see the Democratic Party. I see Biden having a wonderful plan and moving forward, but I see some real conflicts that exist within the Democratic Party that can be very harmful. I mean, here you have Joe.
As it always been.
Yeah, but you have Joe Manchin, who represents one of the most Trumpian districts, states, and he may not vote or would not have voted for the minimum wage. And then they wanted to condemn him and kind of rule him out of the party. And yet they wouldn't be in the majority.
Believe me, they will let him do whatever he wants because they need all 50 votes. All right, Chris is going to be back with us in a couple minutes here when we come back, though. Andrew and I, we're going to get away from Washington for a second and talk Albany, where Andrew Cuomo, he's also not having a good time of it. He's under investigation after a second former staffer makes claims of sexual harassment. We've got the latest, and also we'll put Cuomo's scandals into perspective, how they compare to the sins of other lawmakers. Next.